I never thought being a good listener would hold me back. But in my first job after college, at a mid-sized marketing firm outside Chicago, that's exactly what happened. I started as a content strategist. Decent pay, nothing flashy, but I liked the work. I liked the rhythm of it. And I liked the team. We were a tight-knit group of 10 under a department lead named Marshall, a guy who always wore blue shirts and never once asked anyone how they were really doing. When Marshall announced he was leaving, a few people joked that I'd be next in line, but it wasn't a joke to me. I'd been quietly taking on more responsibilities for months, onboarding new hires, running team stand-ups, smoothing out messes that managers ignored. So I applied, and I made it to the final round. The feedback I got during the last interview, round still echoes in my head sometimes. "You're clearly competent," said the director, Linda, sitting across from me with a too tight smile. "But I worry you might be a little too emotionally involved in team dynamics." Too emotionally involved. That was corporate speak for you care too much. I wasn't aggressive. I wasn't loud. I didn't use phrases like synergize resources or hold their feet to the fire. I cared when people were burnt out. I noticed when someone hadn't spoken up in 3 meetings. I stayed late to help people get through awful days. Apparently that made me not management material. They gave the role to Zach, a guy from another department who once replied cool to a Death in the Family Slack update. Zach was all style and zero emotional awareness. He walked in like he owned the floor, started restructuring our workflows without asking, and immediately created chaos by splitting our team into tiers of priority. People were miserable. One by one, the quietest. Voices stopped speaking up. A teammate named Jess, who had been with the company 6 years, asked to be reassigned. She got denied and went on stress leave 2 weeks later. I tried to talk to Zach. "Hey, people are feeling a little..." "They'll adjust," he said flatly. "It's a business, not therapy." That line stuck with me. The funny part? Even after not getting the promotion, people still came to me. Not Zach. Not Linda. Me. "Can I run something by you? Would you mind taking a look before I submit this? Can I vent for 2 minutes?" They weren't asking me to fix everything. They just wanted someone who didn't treat them like tools in a box. And the more I listened, the more I saw something coming. Not frustration. Not low morale. Resignations. Late one Friday, after everyone left, I sat in the break room with Josh, the most reliable person on the team. He had this quiet, methodical way of working, never missed a deadline. "You look rough," I said. He looked at me, then away. "I'm putting in my 2 weeks on Monday." I blinked. "You serious?" "I've got an offer, somewhere that doesn't make me feel like a ghost." And that's when it clicked. If Josh was leaving, the rest wouldn't be far behind, and I couldn't pretend not to care. Monday morning, Josh kept his word. He submitted his resignation at 9:02 a.m., and by 9:45, word had spread through the team like wildfire. Some people were shocked, others weren't. I watched a few coworkers exchange glances, the kind that said he beat me to it. Zach didn't even ask why Josh was leaving, just said, "Thanks for the heads up," and moved on like we'd lost. A paperclip. By Wednesday, things got worse. A junior copywriter named Nina, the most enthusiastic person on our team, quietly asked me if I'd be a reference. Not for a promotion, for a job at another company. "I just can't keep doing this," she said, voice low. "Zach's changes make everything feel like a race to nowhere, and no one cares if we burn out." It was happening. One resignation turned into a ripple, and the manager in charge didn't even see the water moving. I kept track. By the end of that week, 4 people had updated their LinkedIn. 2 had asked me to review their resumes, and another, a designer named Malik, had already interviewed, at a competitor. The team was unraveling from the inside. I told myself not to get involved. It wasn't my job. I wasn't a manager. They'd made that clear. But one night, I stayed late. Just me and the office hum. I opened a blank document and started writing a detailed internal report. What changes Zach had made. How those changes affected workloads. Quotes from anonymous team members. A timeline of when each major shift happened. And most importantly, how morale had collapsed in real time. I titled it, Status Report, Departmental Retention Risk. The IEU. Next morning, I sent it to Linda. She called me into her office an hour later. I was nervous, not because I was wrong, but because I knew I was stepping out of line. Again. She looked pale. You're telling me 5 people are actively job hunting? More like 6. Maybe 7, I replied. They're not exaggerating. The workload doubled. The priorities keep shifting. No one's getting feedback, and Zach's unreachable. She sighed. Why didn't anyone come to me sooner? I didn't say, because they don't trust you. I just said, they didn't want to be seen as dramatic. Linda sat with it. Then she asked me something unexpected. If you were in Zach's position, what would you do? I answered honestly. I'd roll back the tier system, let people see the impact of their work, assign clear leads again. And I'd talk to them, not just delegate. Talk like they're people. She didn't smile. She didn't thank me. She just nodded. Give me until Monday. I didn't know what that meant. Maybe she'd talk to Zach. Maybe nothing would change. But on Friday afternoon, I walked into the kitchen to refill my coffee and found Zach clearing out his desk. Corporate restructure, he muttered. Whatever. He walked out without saying goodbye, and suddenly an entire department looked at me. Not with fear, not with questions, with hope. I wasn't officially promoted. Not yet. Linda called it interim leadership responsibilities, which basically meant do the job and we'll see what happens. No raise. No title. But for the first time, I sat at the head of the Monday morning meeting. People didn't clap. No one congratulated me. That's not how our office worked, but I noticed the difference in the silence. It wasn't wary anymore. It was curious. Maybe things could actually get better. I didn't start with speeches or promises. I started by listening one-on-one check-ins, just 10 minutes each. What's working, what's broken, and what do you wish someone would notice? Most people came in cautious, but when they realized I wasn't judging or taking notes for HR, they opened up. Nina wanted more clarity on deadlines. Malik said he'd lost pride in his work. Jess, back from stress leave, said she felt like a ghost before she left. One by one, I gathered the threads, and then I wove something new. I made small changes first. No sweeping declarations. I rolled back the tier system. Everyone got equal access to team resources again. I restructured our project board so work was transparent and balanced, and most importantly, I started a 5-minute check-in at the end of every meeting. What's one thing you need this week to do your best work? Some said time. Some said feedback. One said, just someone noticing I exist. I made sure they all got it. Of course, not everyone was happy. A senior manager named Tom, who hadn't spoken to our team in months, called my methods soft. You can't run a team on feelings, he said in a leadership meeting. Linda looked at me. Then explain why their metrics are the highest they've been in a year. I didn't gloat. I just handed her the updated retention report. In 3 weeks, no one else had quit. In fact, 2 people pulled their resumes from the market. I still didn't have the title, or the salary, or the corner office. But one Friday, I found a note on my desk, folded, anonymous, written in purple gel pen. You made it safe to stay. That's when I knew something bigger was shifting, not just the team, but me. 3 weeks after I unofficially took over, Linda dropped a bombshell. You're going to lead the Anderson pitch. The Anderson account was big, national brand, huge exposure, and notoriously demanding. It was the kind of project most managers had to fight for. I didn't ask why she chose me. She didn't explain. But I knew one thing. If I pulled this off, there'd be no question about my ability to lead. The pitch was due in 10 days. The ask? A full campaign proposal, digital. Strategy, visuals, sample copy, rollout plan. We'd normally have a month, maybe more. But now, with half the staff still mentally recovering from Zach's chaos, I had to rally everyone, without burning them out again. So I made a choice. No late nights, no weekend work, no pressure cooker deadlines. Instead, I called a team meeting and said, "We're going to work smart. We're going to respect our boundaries, and we're going to do it together." The room was quiet. Then Jess, who hadn't said more than 3 words since coming back, raised her hand. "I'm in." Others followed. That week, something remarkable happened. People volunteered for tasks. Nina offered to redesign the visuals without being asked. Malik stayed late on his own, not because I demanded it, but because he believed in the pitch. Josh, who hadn't even officially left, yet offered to proofread one final draft. There was no fear. No barking orders, just people who wanted to succeed with each other. On the day of the pitch, I walked into the conference room with our deck in hand, a little nervous but mostly proud. Linda sat beside the Anderson execs, arms folded. I started, with our strategy, our tone, our message. Then I told them why our team was uniquely positioned to deliver. Because we know how to listen. To each other, to clients, and to what people actually want from a brand. The room was silent. Then someone said, "That's the first pitch we've heard this week that didn't sound robotic." A day later, we got the account. That afternoon, Linda called me into her office again. "I spoke to HR," she said. "We want to make it official. Team manager, full title, full raise." I sat down slowly. "Was it the pitch that convinced you?" She smiled faintly. "No, it was the part where no one quit, even when things got hard. I still don't yell in meetings. I still check in with my team individually. I still care when someone's late because their kid was sick. I still listen. They used to say I was too sensitive to lead. Turns out, that's exactly what made me good at it."